Virtues, what are they? Who's virtuous? What is virtuous? Did you know that there's a handful of virtues that are really, really important, not just for the everyday Christian, but especially for church leaders?
Welcome to No Apology with Emily and Chris. It's a variety talk show designed to have you laugh louder, dig deeper, and live larger in the Lord Jesus Christ. And she's my best friend and bride, Emily. She is the hostess with the mostest, and we've together been doing 21 years of broadcasting. It's been pretty fun. Today, we have Dr. Les Lofquist waiting in the wings in the green room right now, and he's coming on in just a second, going to talk about 6 virtues. These virtues are what he teaches pastor candidates at the seminary he works at. Also, Mike Shaw is going to be joining us live from Texas. Well, it's recorded for you, but live for us from Texas with Right On, Way Off. And Emily, we wanted to start the show by just encouraging people to like and subscribe and, join us wherever they can with whatever they're doing. And it would be fantastic. And we get the audio going on that. It comes up a second time. We don't know why that is.
Ding.
So
yeah.
We've got a big summer plan to try to retool a lot of stuff at Fresh Road Media.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we're trying to do is recreate our studio. And so when I use the term reimagine, Emily gets so mad. We're going to try to remodel our studio. We're going to try to reorganize our garage. And I just say, let's reimagine it. And she always gets a little bit frustrated.
That's weird.
Yeah.
It's a garage. How do you reimagine a garage? It's a studio. How do you reimagine a studio?
Well, Fresh Road Media has been a growing little ministry that...
You just move right on.
I do. Just do a camera turn. Keep going.
I gotcha.
Fresh Road Media is a little upstart outreach broadcast ministry. And then we have my Salvaged by God teaching platform, which is impacting people. This show here, many of you have contacted us and said you like the show, and we have a handful of supporters that is the only reason we can still do this. There are hard expenses that are required to do a show like this, subscriptions and some other stuff, and yet we want to make the gospel as free as we can be. We still need your help, and so if you'd go to freshroadmedia.com, I just want to take a minute before Les joins the show.
Sure.
If you'd go to freshroadmedia.com and give a gift this month of June, we can figure out a way to get you this book. It's called Bible Sidekick. And what it is it's 500-page volume. It has all 66 books of the Bible in it. And there's close-ups, there's takeaways, there's things that you might want to know about. Whatever book of the Bible you're in today, you can open this up as your sidekick, and it can give you a lot of help. Also, It goes into the history of the scriptures. It goes into all kinds of different things. I co-authored this with an incredible scholar by the name of William Ray on the book. And he is just an incredibly deep teacher. And so this is like taking 5 seminary books, condensing them into one 500-page volume, and we'd like to give it to you for a gift of whatever you can afford. I mean, we're not putting a price tag on it. I mean, if you give $5, we'll probably send you the digital copy. Just being honest. If you give $25, $30, $100 gift this time, that's going to help us with our studio goals for July.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to throw that out there. And I'm going against all recommendations. They say never ask people to subscribe early in your show, because if they don't like it, they'll leave.
Cool.
Never promote your own book in the beginning of your show, because if people don't like it, they'll leave.
So I'll leave it to you to do both those things.
Do both of them.
I love
Les Lofquist is so strong, people are going to stay to hear what he's got to say.
Yeah, and I love the subtitle of the book. I've read this book myself. It says study helps for believers new and old, and that's absolutely true. I'll read through it, and then a while later I'll be back in the same book again, and I'll go back and I'll reread, because there's 66 summaries in here basically. So each one is not that long. When you said a 500-page volume, it's like, am I reading War and Peace? No, you're not.
It's a reference book, but I mean, it is what is it?
I don't know, Sheldon. Do you really?
It's 490. Let me see. Where did we end on this particular printing?
I don't know. 491?
494.
Okay.
494-page book, or round up a 500-page book.
Okay. So anyway, what I was going to say is it is a really good study help, because it refreshes your memory, even if you've been a Christian for a long time. Each book, like who it was written to and what's the context, and okay, here we go. And when we start reading the actual scriptures, then It really does help bring it to life and bring some clarity. So whether you're a new Christian or you've been a Christian for a long, long time, Bible Sidekick is a good, very good Bible study help. So
All right, it's time for one of my favorite segments of the month. It's when Dr. Les Lofquist joins us, and we are ready for Less is More with Dr. Les Lofquist.
for those who may not know our guest, Les is I love this title, Professor of Practical Theology. In other words, you help people to understand and begin to live out those biblical truths that we learn. So you teach courses in seminary that have a particular emphasis in Christian leadership. That's very interesting. And with that in mind today, Les, we're going to talk about one of the things that really does matter in the Christian life, and that is virtues. There's lots of things out there that we call virtues, but today we want to begin with those virtues that really matter. So
Uh,
Les, thanks for
yeah,
joining
thanks for
us.
joining us, Les. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I can't wait to talk about this really important topic.
Yeah.
As Emily said, I teach, and the classes I teach are for primarily pastors who are training for ministry. Now they have all kinds of other classes,
Mm-hmm.
which are important, theology and ancient languages and things like that. But my class has to do with things like pastoral leadership, living in a godly way, preaching, things like that.
So that's
So
what's
I
called practical theology.
exactly
See,
right,
now I
putting
don't know if
things into
you know
practice.
this, but a few years ago, I applied at a seminary to be a professor for impractical theology, and I didn't even get that job. So
You aced the class.
I know I was like the poster child for that. I thought for sure I was a shoe in. So all right, practical
That's great.
theology, it's very important, and this is kind
Yeah.
of where the rubber meets the road with a lot of pastors, isn't it, Les?
Yes. So virtue is really significant. It comes from the Latin word virtus, which means valor. And the idea is it's a good, desirable quality or trait with all kinds of implications in morality. And so virtue is so significant. And I talk in my class about the important virtues that really matter. And of course, for pastors, we definitely need to talk about godliness and all kinds of issues with mind, our minds thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I thought was really helpful for us to talk about today are some really broad virtues that all of us as Christians should be very concerned about and wanting to adopt. So,
All right.
There are more than six, but we've kind of
oh
narrowed it
yeah,
down to six that we're going to talk about today. And
yeah.
I've got a list of them. You emailed them over, and I'm excited to chat about them because it might not be that people watching or listening right now are thinking about ever going to seminary, but getting a better understanding of these virtues helps in the Christian walk. If it's going to help your pastor do his job, it's going to help in the Christian walk as well.
And I know numbers of your listeners also are concerned not only with their daily walk, but even there are leaders out there. And so leadership principles that are important for pastors
Hmm.
are also important for people out in the congregation. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one
Let's do it.
I thought, like the foundation, is honesty.
Mm.
And by that I mean, people aren't going to follow you. They're not going to want to listen to you if they can't trust you. And so leadership is built on trust, and trust can't exist without honesty. So all the foundation of what we do in leadership or even as believers is honesty.
Yeah.
And as it pertains, to the rest of our lives,
Mhm.
uh, people, if they can't take your word seriously, um, if they don't believe you're coming at them with some kind of spin, and
Hmm.
we frequently talk political things, and we're all so tired of people who spin everything, and you look at them and say, are you real? Are you genuine? Are you really giving me the
Yeah.
truth here? So if leaders lose this sense of credibility, honesty,
Hmm.
and you're not able then to even have any kind of
So
relationships that matter.
So what are the common ways that people in church leadership will lose that trust due to honesty? I mean, I think sometimes it can be very kind
Subtle.
of esoteric or subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Subtle loss of honesty affects so much.
what are some ways that we commonly kind of lose that with other people, that trust?
Well, I definitely think that the first task of a leader is to define reality.
Mm,
And sometimes all of us have been in situations where people, they're not even accepting reality. They're not talking about it. It's like the old emperor has no clothes. Everyone's saying, "Oh, yeah, this is great. Everything's fine. Everything's
Hmm.
wonderful."
Yeah.
And at times, even a pastor has to kind of say, things aren't so good
Yeah.
around here. It might be as simple as the nursery. The It's just not well managed.
mm,
Yeah.
People will come to our church and they bring their children, and it's just not. I don't think it's a safe place. They don't feel it's safe. There are things we have to do, and that when we talk about honesty, usually we think of, are they going to always tell the truth? Sometimes it's just honesty is the willingness to speak something uncomfortable, something is very uncomfortable, but
Right.
it's
Like
not
dealing
right.
with the fact, like dealing with little facts that people don't want to talk about. And like this is June and some call it Pride Month. I call it Repentance Month. And my biggest problem with the movement, and I've been on record saying this many times, my biggest problem with the alphabet mafia and the rainbow people is how dishonest they are.
yeah.
And the biblical thing is one thing. That's my final authority for my life. Okay, but if we wanted to, just for discussion, to just move that off to the side for a second, it's so dishonest at its core. And the reason being is that there are tens of thousands of people who give testimony to the fact that Jesus Christ took them out of their bondage. The bondage word is their word, not mine. Took them out of their bondage and set them free. And they give testimony to that, and yet they get no seat at the table. They get no credibility.
Mhm.
Their voice means nothing, and that is dishonest at its core. And that's just one example. But in a church setting, a lot of times, it's just like Emily saying, "Is my hair a little frizzy today?" I said yes. I said yes, it is. I
I
didn't say
said, Is
no.
my forehead too
Yeah.
shiny today?" And
She
you
and
said,
she
"Oh, Les, you look
yeah.
like a full head of
Yeah.
hair there."
Yeah. I mean, does my hair sometimes make me look like I got a bad rug? Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does.
I'm a
And
little feathery today, so
yes.
sorry about that.
Yeah. And she's like lamenting she didn't bring hairspray or whatever. It's like,
Anyway.
she doesn't care. We don't care. We just want to share the gospel. But at the core of the honesty, it is, like you say, a foundation. It's a
Yes. Yes.
foundation that leaders must speak the truth, but we don't have to be mean about it.
Mhm.
But many
Correct.
times, Les, I know this might shock you, but I've been called abrasive because of my honesty. And so, that's part of what you got to deal with, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's another little subtle nuance, especially that we might not think of, but a willingness to admit mistakes, honest. And just yesterday, I mean, where I pastor as executive pastor in our church, I had to look a couple guys in the eye after a meeting and say, I made a mistake. I
Mhm.
apologize. And I was honest about it. And interestingly, they were a little concerned about some things, and they were talking to me about it.
Mhm.
And
Hmm.
when I realized pretty quickly that, boy, I had misspoken and I was wrong in the what I had said, an assessment I had given about something. And they said, "You need to be careful what you say." And that's how they started. And as I was listening, I said, "You're right. I was
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I was mistaken. Hey, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't want to
Yeah.
Yeah.
do that."
Do you
And
think
they,
that do you think that being honest with yourself can sometimes be more difficult than just being honest with someone else? Like we've all gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I got to say something and I really don't want to. But like you were just explaining, when the reverse is true, okay, I have to take an honest look at myself. Do you think that's harder?
oh yeah, self confrontation, looking in the mirror, and just agreeing with what you see or what you regretfully are observing, just saying, I have to make some changes, or this was wrong, or I have to go make this right. Oh, and why do we not pursue that? Is because of our lack of the second one I think of is humility. So
Yeah.
honesty and humility, you can see how they work together,
Okay.
because oftentimes in our pride, we're not going to admit that we're wrong, or we're not going to allow others to tell us things. I remember one man telling me, as a leader, he told me, you shouldn't apologize like that. Meaning, I was in front of a board of directors. There were 14 of us. And I said, hey, I didn't get this done. So this is what I want to do to correct
Hmm.
it. And he thought that was projecting weakness.
Right. You need to be strong, Les.
Right. But the reality is, people appreciate when you admit
Yeah.
your mistakes. And they appreciate, especially if you say, I don't want to do this again. Help me.
Yeah.
And even in now, I'm looking at the two of you, a married couple. Um, when typically it's pride on the man's part, is it
Hmm.
just seems, I know I'm stereotyping here, but we as men, we struggle with admitting our need for help,
Yeah.
honestly saying, I'm lost. Now we all
Yeah.
have GPSs now, so we don't have that problem. But we can remember before GPS, men, we were, I got to figure it out. I know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Or don't worry, I've got it all taken care of, and we really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our wife loves it when we say, I I was wrong,
Yeah.
or this was a mistake, or hey, I'm really sorry.
Well, honesty going alongside of humility has another side of the coin. And that's where you can be fake humility too. You know, you
Mhm.
see these people that fake their humbleness, and I always have a joke is that my humility is part of my greatness, you know. And so it still comes out of the foundation of honesty. And when you're honestly, I said something to one of my elders, and he came up to me he called me the next day and said that I hurt his feelings. And I felt horrible because I knew he was right. He was right. It doesn't matter my intentions. It doesn't matter what I was trying to say and misspoke. It was that it just landed wrong with him. And so he gave me an opportunity to apologize and humble myself and ask for forgiveness. And that's what honest Christian people do. Yes, it's a little harder, I think, for men than women, but women have their own
That's
things when it comes to that.
It's called nagging. When
yeah,
women are not being humble, they're nagging this husband of theirs that they really need to lighten up, I think.
So honesty is the foundation. That's virtue number one. Humility, the posture, that's number two. Number three
yeah.
is dependability and the habit.
Right. Dependability does become a habit. Um, just again, what we're talking about now almost sounds like parents talking to their kids. How important dependability is. I can remember Chris and I. If you don't know, as your listeners, we love the Minnesota Vikings together, and we
Yes.
talk about them. And I know I've heard coaches say. The greatest ability is dependability, or you can't make the club in the tub. If you're always in the tub, the ice tub, and you're
Injury room.
never out, you're not dependable. You're not going to make the club. It's the
Yeah.
Mm.
same thing in our lives as Christians, and we already talked about husbands and wives, and then I began this virtue by talking about parents talking to their kids,
Hmm.
because dependability is so important. And people, they'll admire talent and even brilliant people, but they want to follow, and they really appreciate reliability, dependability, and that people who meet deadlines, they show up on time, they keep their appointments, you can depend on them.
Yeah.
I felt terrible today. We had that little glitch as we were getting started, and
Mm-hmm.
arranged the moment that I would join the show, and I was missing it, and I felt terrible,
Yeah.
and I got on the phone and called you. And why is that? Because I want to be dependable. When I told you I was going to be on the show at this time, I wanted you to know you could count on me.
And we did
And
all we could to make sure we were back to the studio from a previous appointment. And I'm the same way. I just get all clenchy. And, my dad raised us, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late kind of thing. And,
Mhm.
good people show up. But another thing about dependability that I want you to kind of address is when no one's around watching, especially for pastors. Now, there is built in, if you can schedule yourself out to where you're just running ragged. That's not wisdom. But I have so many appointments this week with so many different parishioners. And to me, that's exciting. But I still have this margin time built in to write my sermon. And so instead of cutting short my sermon, I got to be dependable. I've got to have that virtue of when no one else is around watching that I'm still putting in the work because I believe it's important to bake fresh bread every Sunday. Now,
Yes,
sometimes a pastor has to take the lump out of the freezer, defrost it, and bake it. Other times you work from scratch. Well, I'm doing a message from scratch that's it. I baked the loaf so big that it's two parts now. And that, believe it or not, takes longer because now you're trying to sort. I mean, I've got just way too much stuff, and you can't make people drink from a fire hose every Sunday. So
right,
it's
right.
being dependable in your prayer time. It's being dependable in your independent study time that the church
Yes,
is compensating you so that you have the time to do that and not just squander it away. When you
that's right.
teach pastors that dependability, how important do you think it is that they have to be dependable when nobody's watching?
I'm telling you, that those little habits that you form that seem to be like little spider webs become steel cables.
Hmm.
And you cannot allow even those subtle little surrenders to things that are not good or laziness. I can remember one of my professors in seminary, and this is many years ago. He said the dirty little secret among pastors is that some of them are very lazy
Oh yeah. I talked to
because
one pastor friend one time, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was watching Netflix in my office," and I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I was just taking a break." I'm like, "Dude, I eat at my desk sometimes, and I might watch a YouTube and check out, this thing about NASCAR or Formula One or something as a break. But if you're watching a Netflix movie in your pastor's office, to me, that's immediate red flag. It's
yes,
just to me because I mean we don't spend 12 hours a day in our office. We're there
yeah.
6 to 8 hours a day at most, and so
And
anyway.
I always remind all of us, all Christians, indwelt by the Holy Spirit, and He's working in us and working out these virtues, these godly character qualities. The Galatians 5 calls them the fruit of the Spirit. One of them is self control. And
Yeah,
self control is self discipline. Self discipline is not watching Netflix, not scrolling social media for an hour and a half in your study, and no one's around when
Yeah.
you're a pastor.
yeah,
You close the door. My door's closed right now. I
yeah.
instructed my secretary. I'm busy, and she doesn't know what I'm doing now. But I could be watching a Netflix.
I'm gonna
You
text her saying Les is watching Netflix.
yeah,
No, and I'm not. I mean, you know what? There was a comedian that had a Netflix special, and there was like 15 minutes left in it. And Emily and I finished it yesterday when we were having coffee after dinner. Okay, I could have done that over my lunch hour. I get that if I'm eating at my desk. So I'm not like saying you turn on Netflix. I'm talking about the attitude of just
exactly.
floating along during the week. And like I've worked for 10 years on a 7 Churches of Revelation series, and I'm gonna uncork that this summer. I still
Mhm.
have to spend a lot of time with it each week if I'm
Yeah,
going to deliver fresh bread to the congregation. That's really the only benefit I have as their pastors. That's a goal that I want to be dependable in. And I
that's
think
right.
God honors that because I mean my preaching's not that great, but God's doing some amazing stuff with it. And I think it comes back to that.
All right. All right.
And God's
So
people appreciate the
go
pastor
ahead.
who developed that.
You
Yeah.
broke up, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
God's people to appreciate the pastor who is developing this, and they can count on him. He
Yeah.
writes in his a planner, "I'll be there at Tuesday at lunch," and he's there at lunch at noon. They
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well,
Yeah.
let me just add on to that, Emily, before you recap the virtues and then go on to the next one. And that is, I believe that I don't have a job. If I have a job, I want to do it completely different. I have a
Mhm.
vocational calling. They compensate me basically for two
Yeah,
things. Number one, on Sunday to be prepared to serve good bread to the congregation. Be prepared,
Yeah.
show up prepared. And that takes time and effort when no one's watching. And number two is to always be available. There's been one situation in the 3 years I've been pastor here where I wasn't completely available, just one. Otherwise, I'm available all the time. I feel like if somebody tries to get a hold of me and they can't, I drop the ball. And those are the two things that God's calling me to do as a pastor. Yes, there's counseling and there's all kinds of, different things. But like I told my group when I got here, I'm not going to be the building manager. You know what I mean? I want to be a pastor. And so they've kind of respected that. And so when we talk about 6 virtues that really matter, it's beyond pastorship. It's also to every man and woman that want to walk with God.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about honesty, we talked about humility, we talked about dependability, and quite honestly, as we're talking, they're very connected one to another. And so the next one that we want to talk about is courage. So tell us about courage. Like, what is that? Because when I think of the word courage, I think there's a lot of people who might view that very differently.
That's very precise. I like that, how you stated that, because, um, for example, uh, first thing that comes to my mind, people talk about, oh, he has a courageous battle against cancer. Um, that's one way the word's used. Another way is, our heroes who are involved in combat, who are laying their lives on the line, first responders, so military and first responders that have a great deal of courage, and definitely that. But I used to pray every day. We have 5 children, my wife and I, and we
Hmm.
would pray every day for our kids to be brave. They understood that word, and to
Yeah.
have courage, because life is it's no friend of grace. And I was reading yesterday morning in John chapter 15. Jesus talks about the world hating him, hating me, hating him, hating me. I lost count. I distinctly remember counting 7, and then there's several more hates. The world hates Christ,
Mm.
and they don't want holiness. And those who love Christ and want to be holy, they're going to need courage.
Hmm.
And so I talked. We have 3 girls. I talk to my daughters. Usually it's the boys. We want them to be brave, and the girls, well, be beautiful. But the idea, bravery, courage, has to do with standing for what's right, and speaking up when you need to speak up, and taking a stand. And when you take a hit for doing that, you stay at it. I used to tell my kids, I said, you need to be tough,
Hmm.
and said not mean. Mean people, when you're little kids, I'd say mean people push others down. When you're tough, people push you down and you get back up. And you're willing to take a stand, and because it's a virtue that involves this implication of moral standing. Like in the Bible, we see Daniel in Babylon
Hmm.
taking a tremendous moral stand, in leadership as a young man, and all the way through the book of Daniel. We pick up Daniel when he's a young teenager, and then into his 80s. So like 7 decades of a man who was courageous. But I don't see Daniel as running around with a sword and fighting people that we usually attribute to courage. So that's
Yeah.
kind of, Emily, when you mentioned that, that's my first thought. So as a woman, when you hear courage, often it's attributed to men, but about a woman, what are your thoughts about courage?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's just like having a strength. And it's interesting because I had such a close relationship with my dad, and I
Hmm.
think that's what gave me a lot of like how I view things. Um, but just like kind of one little story that sticks in my mind about it as you're talking about courage and what that's really like is I was listening to a football player talk one time. And of course, in football and any sports, there's a lot of trash talking, and just hyping things up and kind of threatening and telling them what they're going to do. But this one particular athlete who was a Christian, I remember that, he said there's nothing more intimidating than watching someone who's very good at their job just quietly stand on the opposing sideline and wait to come out and just do their job, because you
Yeah.
can see they're focused, they're confident, they're not trash talking, they're not saber rattling, they're not engaged in all that stuff, but it's just this quiet assuredness from the other side of the field
Yeah.
that's very intimidating.
Yes.
When I
Yeah.
played high school football for a Christian little Christian school, my junior year, the coach would make us put our hands out to lift up other players after the play was over from the other team. And every now and then you'd get a player who would knock your hand away, not want to be part of the opposition. And we were taught to just say, "That's all right, that's all right." Good hustle to the other team. And it was amazing how that would just bring the tone of the aggression down, and we could dominate the football game. We killed them with kindness. I mean, that was part of our strategy. But when he said we're not just doing it as a strategy, we're doing it as a way of life. And so I love sportsmanship like that. I mean, I love getting in the boxing ring and just throwing down, and at the end of it, just cheering each other on for your next stages in
Yeah.
life. And when you get to
I had to
this,
give up the cage fighting last month.
yeah, yeah, I saw on ESPN you got taken down pretty hard. But no, when it comes to courage, a lot of times it's the courage just to be kind, to have good sportsmanship, to
Yes.
be in the game and to try to encourage others. And I think that when you have that honesty, that humility, and you're a dependable person, and you get that spine of steel, you can stand up for things. But I also think there's a byproduct that a lot of people may not recognize out of these 6 virtues, and we're through 4 right now, with courage being one of them. But the courage to love what other people get that you don't get.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I mean, like, for example, we're training radio people, and one of the kids goes on and has just this huge nationwide career that we probably didn't get. Oh no! It's like, yes, I'm so happy for him.
Yeah.
It's just oh, must be nice to be so and so who just got the big contract in the NFL. It's like, yeah. I hope that they do well with it, and I hope that the Lord blesses
Yeah.
them even more. I don't know why people get so worked up about other people's success, but anyway.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. Just like when you're reading through the scriptures, what do you think is just one of the most outstanding examples of this courage that you're talking about, Les?
I have mentioned Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
He is amazing. And a great hero of mine is great. I'd like to bring him up now. Is Noah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He stayed at it for 120 years. I talk about a long, solitary obedience. No one went with him other than his wife and his daughters and their husbands. But it was a long, solitary obedience. But we talk about quiet strength. Daniel was not, again, known for war like David. Daniel instead, very quietly, was strong, and the people around him loved him and respected him so much. When he was in his 80s, they pull him out of retirement. And that's, by the way, when he goes into the den of lions, because he was pulled out of retirement, and then they were jealous. As you were saying, Chris, there's other people, they get filled with jealousy, and seeing someone succeed. They didn't like Daniel, and so Daniel quietly went about his business, and ultimately they thought was paying with his life when they threw him into the lions, and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't happen.
Didn't
But
happen.
I love those men, Daniel and Noah, and the courage to just have their convictions, and in the midst of unpopular kinds of message and decisions, they stood strong, and
Yeah.
they were
And
faithful.
I'll add in the Apostle Peter, because he didn't have any and he failed so miserably. But then when he saw the risen Christ, he had more courage coming down the pike than anybody, even going to his death, not being willing to be crucified like his Lord. That's kind of a courage for those of us who've had many failures. who want to get back up again and want to be strong. We're talking about the 6 virtues on the Less is More program on No Apology with Emily and Chris. And the 6 virtues, we're through 4 of them: honesty, humility, dependability, courage. And now we're up to number 5.
I want to say one thing though before we move on to the next one, because for me personally, because you asked about like from that woman's perspective, because it is
Yep.
the same for both men and women. When I look at Mary, the mother of God, and I see the task that was laid on her, and in the scriptures, it's really portrayed that she did this with grace and dignity and servanthood and all those things. And that for me is a really good tangible example of someone with tremendous courage to just do what she had to do. So that's my, and I liked your definitions too. What did you say? You said long solitary obedience.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really, really good.
That's
All right.
a lot of women have long solitary obedience. That's part of their DNA. All right,
All right,
number
number
5
5.
is determination. And you in
Yes.
your notes here, Les, you put daily tenacity.
Daily tenacity. That's, harkens back to our old football or athlete days.
Yeah.
We think about tenacity, tenacious, but going through life that way, because we're getting knocked down all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like every other day, I've got great things, and then I have great challenges the next day, and when I celebrate some great moments or great victories, just shortly thereafter, there's things that are great challenges, and just to stay at it. To When we say faithfulness, we often will attribute that correctly to obedience, but sometimes it's just while you're obeying, you just hang in there. You don't give up. You don't quit. Perseverance. That is also a biblical word in the New Testament, used by you're able to stay under. That's the meaning of this one Greek word: to stay under the circumstances that have you pushed down. You stay there. You don't quit. You don't run away. You just stay. And as Emily was saying about that football player who's on the sideline, just standing, waiting to come in, and then to do his job.
Mm-hmm.
That's tenacity as well. And Tom Landry, the old coach for the Cowboys, Tom Landry said 75% of the tackles in the NFL are made by men originally thought to be out of the play, but they stayed at it. They
Yeah.
didn't quit.
Yeah.
They kept at it. The play moved on. They made the tackle.
Yeah.
They were
Defensive
out.
pursuit in the NFL has gotten extreme. If you ever watch the game from that educated perspective, the way the defense can pursue, which is why reverses and things, used to work. They don't work as much anymore, is because even the stay at home, check the play, read and react, they can still pursue at such a high level. I call that tenacity. I call that coming through the tunnel. The game 7, this is why we play the game kind of, you're just laser focused. And because there's nothing like that. If anybody's ever played sports and it's that moment you run onto the field or skate onto the ice, or like when you're doing stand-up comedy, I'll never forget Shonda Pierce relaunched my comedy career in 2007. 1,500 people. I haven't done stand-up and all I ever did was like clubs and stuff. And so this is going to be the biggest audience I've ever been in front of. And I just still remember just having, when and right in the middle of her set, she stops and brings me on stage to do the Johnny Carson 6. And I was so like beside myself. I don't normally get nervous, but I mean, I was like, this is crazy. How's this happening? And I had to get that laser focused tenacity and just go up there and just hit my marks. And as people were laughing, I was only focused on what my next joke was going to be, how I was going to set it up. And that's how life can be when you have this determination. That's how you can do things that you may not, think that you can do, especially in the face of opposition. And that's what my message is this weekend. We're facing just a growing opposition. If the times are drawing near, if Hebrews 10:25, if we're looking for the day to appear, the darkness is coming, we have to stand strong. And I know you've talked about like Jeremiah and his daily
Mhm.
obedience despite severe opposition. And then you in your notes you sent us, you have Hebrews 12 listed there.
Yes. Yeah, let me read that for you.
Yeah.
About you asked me for courage. I mentioned I really admired Daniel. I really love Noah. You've mentioned from my notes, I talk about Jeremiah, but ultimately it's Jesus
Mhm.
is
Mm-hmm.
our ultimate example. Listen to Hebrews 12,
Yeah.
2. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured, there's that word about tenacity, endured the cross, despising the shame, has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. That's the mission was complete. And then verse 3 says, consider him who endured, there's the same word used twice, endured such hostility from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls. And that's when we don't have tenacity, when we don't have determination or perseverance, we become weary,
Mhm.
discouraged, and we just quit. And the honest truth, I talked about the dirty little secret, and some pastors are lazy. Well,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't a secret. All of us, pastors, people in the pew, all of us, moms, dads, kids, there are times where we just want to quit.
Mhm.
We do. We
Yeah.
just want to quit. It's just too much. And I'm so thankful for my wonderful wife. She's only 5 feet tall. I'm 6'3". We look very odd standing next to each other. And she is so strong. And she has such determination. And she doesn't come at me like my old football coach saying, come on, get going. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. That's not my wife. You know what she does? She just kind of rubs the back of my neck and will say, I we've been here before, or this isn't a surprise, or God understands. Just her gentleness and that courage that she has, quiet strength,
Mhm.
leads to determination and tenacity to keep going. And notice I'm a professor at a seminary teaching pastors and future pastors. And we're talking about things that are common to all of us.
Right.
Pastors wanting to just get on the couch and never get off and lie,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
lie on the couch and
Yeah.
sleep and let it all go. I can't keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
We have to admit that's one of my favorite times in the day. Chris and I try to have devotions in the morning and then last thing before we go to bed as well. And there's been many times where we are sitting at on the couch reading the Bible, and it's so good and it's so sweet. And Chris will look at the time and he's just like, "No, I got to go." And you want to say, "No, just a few more minutes." And but Chris will, he's very good at reminding me. It's like 7:30 in the morning now and he's like, "No, I have to get out of here. I got to get going." And I'm just like, "Just relax." Just that, and he'll look at me and he'll say, "Emily, there's men in our congregation who have already had their work boots on for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm going," and it's just that reminder that, yeah, we can't get lazy. Um, we can't succumb to that. We have to keep that determination to serve and to serve the best that we possibly can. And just remembering who it is we serve
Yeah.
is so
And
helpful.
you can have a pull yourself up by the bootstraps tenacity that you were raised with all you want. You can have the best work ethic in the world. And like Les, you were saying, the fatigue sets in and the discouragement sets in. So part of that daily tenacity has to come from God. We have to
Yeah.
ask him for strength and he has to strengthen us. And so
Yes.
let's review. We've got number 1, honesty. Number 2, humility. Number 3, dependability. Number 4, courage. Number 5, determination. Number 6, as we bring it home of the 6 virtues, is humor.
This humor. This, I mean, listeners, you need to know that's why I love Chris and Emily. They make me laugh. And we laugh about Minnesota things. We laugh
Yeah.
about Vikings. We laugh about all kinds of stuff, stories that we know. And what is humor actually? Well, for some people, they say, "Oh, he's just a joker," or "He's just silly." And actually, I'm known to be pretty funny in meetings, and I use it strategically because there are meetings where I sense when I'm conducting the meeting and there's like 12 guys, I'll say, "This is getting a little heavy, and we're starting to get irritated, and I'm going to break the tension now."
Mhm.
And say something funny, and it's not a joke. I don't say, "Hey, this reminds me of." I'll say a quip, or someone will say something, and I will make a quick little response, um, and everyone laughs. And the
Mhm.
laughter just brings into the room a freshness, a breath. We're going to make it. But I added also humor because I definitely believe in it as a virtue for leaders. But because the two of you have such joy and you love to laugh, and it's not laughter with no purpose, it's purposeful. So I'd like to hear from you as you talk about humor and its importance as a virtue in our lives as Christians.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I love that you ended the list with that because when you look at all the other ones like determination, courage, and dependability, those are hard. You know what I mean? And then it's like humor. Oh, wait, humor?
Yeah.
I like that one. I can do that one. But you're absolutely right, Les, where it's like using it purposefully because one of the things about humor is knowing, there's so many times I will have a quick-witted response in my head, but I know mm, now
Yeah,
is not the time
yeah,
to
that's
say
true
that.
too. You
But
need a
on the
filter.
fl yeah, exactly, a filter, but then on the same token, it really is I think that that's one of the things that has really been a part of our success and our ability to withstand the things that the world throws at you is the ability to laugh, is the ability to bring some levity into the situation, and it helps you cope, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Yes, yes. And something else it does. This is important for a pastor. This is a skill that I encourage my students to develop because um, you will have people who either don't like you outright in the congregation of the community,
Oh, I know
or
that.
sure, yeah, they're not sure about you. And when you can tease in a sweet way, joke with people, it disarms the critics.
Mhm.
They'll say, "Oh, I don't know. I like this guy. I don't think I should. Oh, I like him even more." And so to be able to at times just kind of gently, poke. I with a guy, I'll tap him in the bicep, and I'll say, "Hey," and then I'll say something funny, and even someone who maybe is not uh, has a great sense of humor, but I go ahead and tease them, and after a while they realize humor actually is a great way to project love, uh, because people say, "You know what? He's not scowling at me.
Mhm.
He's not saying harsh words to me. I'm not getting yelled at. Actually, he's joking with me." And what does that say? Hey, I like you.
Yeah,
I love you. I like to be with you.
yeah. Yeah, I enjoy being around you. I'm enjoying this moment with you. That is a
Mhm.
really powerful sentiment to portray. And I what we've found too, Chris just being a stand-up comedy and we both have, pretty good, if not very well refined senses of humor.
Yes,
Um
you're great. You're great sense of humor.
there are people who are just naturally very, very stoic, but when you're engaged with them and all of a sudden they crack a smile and you haven't you that's a rarity for them, that gives me a lot of joy too, just to see the emotion from the, mostly not too emotional person. Like, I really enjoy that, and I feel closer connected to that person because of that.
Mhm. Exactly. And as I train pastors for leadership roles, I also remind them of some of the great leaders they're renowned for humor. Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan.
Mhm.
There are great leaders who they used humor as a way of disarming the critics and kind of teasing a little bit. And it's a wonderful way to spread joy.
Mm.
Well,
In a
the reason I
church.
liked humor being last on the list of the six is because I think it's more of a natural byproduct.
Mm.
It's hard to just try to be funny. We that's what made the Chris and Emily show back in the day good, because Emily and I weren't trying. We were just doing what we do, and with the comfortability with each other, the light would go red. We'd be live on the air, and we'd just start doing what we do. And for me, when you're really honest, when you're really at the core honesty, which launched the six virtues, you can be self-depreciating because you just don't care. And when you
Right.
are self-depreciating, that lightens everybody else up a little bit. You know, one of the things I used to do in my comedy show later in life, not when we were touring back in the Bible Idiots filming days, but just the most recent ones that we would do just here and there at marriage conferences and stuff. I always do the joke because, I mean, I'm not very tall. I'm 5'7". I'm a little bit heavy. I'm heavier than what I should be. And I got this full head of hair. And so I would say, look, the loser trifecta in America is short, fat, and bald. God looked down and said, we'll give him hair. You know, and everybody laughs. And you know, you just know that that's gonna, you know, and who cares? You think people don't realize that I'm a few pounds overweight? You think people think I'm the tallest guy in the room? Just own it.
No, they do not.
Just own it. If your hair as a woman host is a little frizzy,
It's flying
own
away.
it.
Yeah.
Don't
But
lament
if
about having no hairspray.
but it
And
really is.
you Les, with your MMA career coming to an end this past weekend. You
Yes,
know?
that's right. So I had to give it up, and now I'm going on the comedy circuit.
That's right. Now it's time for you to learn stand up and build that
But
tension and then release it.
it reminds everyone we're human.
Yeah.
And for pastors, sometimes they don't want that. They want to project, I'm not human, I'm super pious, I'm better than you, and you
Mhm.
have to see me as an example of Jesus, so I'm not going to let you see me as human. And when we can joke about, running out of gas
Yeah.
when I'm driving, and oh my goodness, or when we can joke about different things about ourselves, it shows we're human and relatable. And in the end, that's what we're trying to do as pastors. We're trying to draw close to people so
Mhm.
they can hear from us the word of God. They can see in our lives obedience. They can see love for Christ, love for people, love for the word. And they'll say, you know what? I want to kind of do what he's doing. I want to follow that guy. I want to come to this church. I want to come to this Bible study. I want to be like that guy. And I want to have a happy home like Chris and Emily, laughing and enjoying each other so obviously. It's so powerful, those kinds of role models.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being our special guest again. It's a monthly thing. The segment is called Less is More with Dr. Les Lofquist. And Les, we just want to say thanks for being on the program, and we can't wait to hear what you got planned for us next month.
All right. God bless you guys. Take care.
All right, we're coming back in just a minute with Mike Shaw with Right On, Way Off here on No Apology with Emily and Chris.
If you're like me and you see God moving, you want to come alongside and join in the work of the Lord. I'm seeing Jesus change lives through the preaching of Salvaged by God and the joy of the Lord in the talk show No Apology with Emily and Chris. All of this being generated from the nonprofit Fresh Road Media. We'd love it if you'd consider joining us and supporting this amazing outreach. You can even join our tribe for free. If you subscribe really at any levels, we have some wonderful resources as a way of saying thank you. Go to freshroadmedia.com and be part of something new and really, quite frankly, something that we so need in today's world. And welcome to our tribe.
Welcome back to No Apology with Emily and Chris. It's a talk show designed to have you laugh louder, dig deeper, and live larger in the Lord Jesus Christ. And Emily, we are going to get into not a new segment. We're going to do a different segment. No, we're not. We're not doing any of that. Mike Shaw is waiting in the wings right now.
You having a stroke over there?
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Mike, there's Mike.
Mike
Hey,
Shaw
it's the
joins
next
us
segment.
all the way
The
from the
next
great
segment.
state of Texas. And before we get into Right On, Way Off,
Which is the not new segment.
right. I was just
Yes.
talking to another lady today who heard you on the show and was like, oh, I missed him so much. So it was good for her to hear your voice again. So even though you are now in Texas, I'm so
Yep.
glad that you still make it back with us most weeks to play Right On,
Yep.
Way Off.
Me
And is Texas still treating
Me
you
too.
well?
Texas is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my grandson graduated from high school. Got to be there for that. Had a
Awesome.
graduation party last weekend. Got to be there for that. Hanging out with family and doing my silly videos for the city.
All
Yeah.
right. Very good.
Good.
Yeah.
And I see you're still keeping an eye on the weather as well.
Yeah, is
So-
weather Mike
you
still
know.
happening? I've been out of the loop.
No, that I let that go. It's really weird. Once I got here, my focus just became my job.
Yeah.
And so that just
Funny how that
naturally fell by
works.
the way. Yeah, I just didn't even feel like doing it anymore. So
Right.
Still
So, you know.
posting things and making comments of different
Yeah.
things that are coming up. So
Sure.
anyway, I
I'm a
always appreciate
recovering
that.
weatherman. So
Yes.
you know,
Very good.
Yes.
All right.
still
All
working
right.
on it.
All right. All
So
right.
we just finished.
Oh, did I do that too soon?
Well, a skosh too
All right,
soon.
all
I was
right.
going to say we just finished our interview with Les Lofquist. And Mike, I wish you could be
Yeah.
in studio with us for all of these interviews and so on that we have, but you're not. And today it might be a little bit of a disadvantage to you because, believe it or not, one of my questions, Chris, has to do with virtue.
Okay.
We're gonna talk
Six
about-
virtues that are taught to pastors in training.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Les brought that on the show
Are
just
you-
before you got into
Are
the
you
green.
curious as to what they are, Mike? They're honesty, humility, dependability, courage, determination, and humor.
Oh,
Isn't that good
I
to
got
know?
1 out of 6.
Yeah. And we all know which one that is. Okay.
It's not
Let-
humility. So.
All right. It is time once again to play Right On, Way Off.
I'm gonna hit that again just because
There you
one
go.
of my favorite little sounders that we have.
You gotta work on taking cues.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
It's time for Right On, Way Off. That's where I put out 3 statements. I throw them out there, and Chris and Mike tell me whether those statements are right on or way off.
And then we had to generate the paddles so that we didn't cheat off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm gonna throw this one right out of the chute right away. It has to do with virtue. So I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't know that that's where we were going with the interview earlier, but who knows?
Well, before
Sometimes-
she gets into that first statement, I just want to say this, that the fan mail has come in from all over the world. The people really liked when I did Right On Way Off, when I hosted that segment. And so I asked Emily this morning and she said, absolutely not.
Never again.
No.
I will let you host
Because
again.
she is so mad that she fell into the same trap you and I fall into almost every week, where you hear it in a certain way and you're
Yeah.
correct, but that's not exactly what was said. Or you leave a little context out that then changes it. And so
Yeah, no,
that's
but-
what makes it a fun discussion.
The one that I got wrong about being able to prove God, if you're able to prove God, then he's not really God. I have just been chewing on that
Right.
statement ever since.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it.
Yep.
It was right on. It was totally right on.
Even though you said it was way off.
I thought it was way off.
Yeah, nope, been there, done that. In fact, I'm probably
agree.
going to do that today. Basically, Mike and I are just sitting here waiting to bump our heads and lose our credibility. Go ahead. Hit us.
It's already happened. So here we go. Statement number 1, tolerance. Tolerance is a virtue of people who do not believe in anything. Tolerance is the virtue of people who do not believe in anything. Is that right on or is that way off? Paddles up, boys. Oh, you both say right on. Very good. All right, let's start with you, Chris.
Well, tolerance comes down to nothing matters. You got to be tolerant of everything.
Mhm.
And so that means you lean towards not believing in anything. You might have inclinations towards something, But to be tolerant to something else, you got to put your beliefs on the shelf. So that's where I'm coming from on that.
All right. Very good. Mike Shaw, what are your thoughts?
Is this the virtue question?
Yes.
Oh, cool. So I've always wanted to do some virtue singling. So now's my chance.
Signal away.
Signal away. So yeah, tolerance, it's like if you have an open mind, you don't want your mind so open that your brains fall out. That's one saying from my younger days. But that's the truth. It's like you have to stand for something or you're going to fall for anything. We stand on God's truth. There are biblical principles that are true because they're from God and they don't change. And so, you got to make a stand sometimes, and that is often not seen as tolerant. So, but you got to let the chips fall where they may once in a while.
All right. All right. So you both said it was right on. It is right on. Any guesses as to who might have said this?
Ronald Reagan.
I don't know.
G.K. Chesterton. He sneaks in there every once in a while. So it's really good. Tolerance, really, even when you read through the scriptures, people who are tolerating things, it's usually not a very good thing.
Well, here's the thing about G.K. Chesterton I want folks to know, and that is he's the one who said that soon you're going to watch people hijack the word humility and hijack the word arrogance and flip-flop them. And, basically...
Did he say flip-flop them?
No, I'm paraphrasing. Chesterton didn't say flip-flop them. But that's what's happened, where a humble man used to stand on his conviction. Now that man is arrogant.
Yeah.
And a humble man is just open-minded and tolerant of everything. Here's the thing about Chesterton I want people to know. He was way before his time. Because when those statements were made? 1905, 1908, 1910, 1911. That was over 100 years ago.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Dude knew what was coming. There's nothing new under the sun.
No income tax either.
Oh, those were the days.
Hashtag just saying.
Woodrow Wilson is the downfall of America, and people don't even know it. If you go back and do your research, that's where it all started. That was the genesis. His administration was the genesis to the debacle that we now have of $36 trillion in debt.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to something a little more cheerful. Hopefully. I don't know.
We're doomed. We're doomed.
Listen to this statement very carefully and think. I'm going to give you like a moment to think about it before I demand your paddles go up.
All right.
Once you've experienced God for yourself, no one will be able to change your mind about him. Once you've experienced God for yourself, no one will be able to change your mind about him. Is that right on? Or is that way off? All right.
I'm ready.
You guys don't need a little do.
I don't.
You don't need that? Okay. Well, I've given you long enough.
And I'm going for it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I got my point, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Well, that was fast thinking. All right. Are you ready? Paddles up.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Chris says way off. Mike says right on. Let's start with you, Mike.
I just knew this was going to happen because that experience word, that's the key word that I'm going to get wrong here from the other perspective, I think. But in my experience,
which is wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Experiencing God. And there's so many ways that I've experienced God in my life, then, I'm not going to be shaken from that rock. I'm not going to be shaken from my faith. Now, I might have problems and I might worry and I might be concerned about things. And maybe I don't always rely on God as much as I should, especially in hard times, even in good times. But because of my experience in God, and that includes knowing His Word, and reading His Word, and studying His Word, but it also includes all the things that He's done for me, the good that He's brought out of bad, which has grown me in so many different ways, and all of those experiences in and with God, walking with God. Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm right on. It's not going to shake my faith
All right,
ultimately.
very good.
Yeah.
Very strengthening for you. Chris, you said way off. Why did you say way
Say
way
the
off?
statement again exactly how you read it before.
Oh,
we
I'm going to
go.
change it up a little bit.
No.
I'm joking. Once you've experienced God for yourself, no one will be able to change your mind about him.
Mhm.
And you said that that was way off. Why do you think that's way off?
Well, here's let me before I get to the way off part, let me tell you that I understand that when you experience God and you have that salvation and you get a new heart and a new life, you're never the same again. And you know what you know because you know it. But that has to line up with Scripture. And when it lines up with Scripture, there's no significance in yourself. The more you get into Scripture, the more you realize you're not significant. Jesus is, and it's his righteousness that you claim. So, what I am going way off about is that people sometimes judge God based on their experience. And God is sovereign over our life, and he says that only faith will please him.
Mhm.
So, we have faith in God, the biblical creator, who came to earth in the form of Jesus Christ, lived a perfect life, died a sacrificial death, was raised again from the dead. We accept that by faith, and then our experiences could wobble. They could be this, they could be that. My experiences when I was 18 is not when I was 38, is not when I was 58. There are different experiences, so to speak. So that's why I'm going way off with the idea that I'm probably wrong. Mike's probably getting the point, but
No, I think it's the other way around. Dude.
but the reality is that when you base your faith on your experiences, when let me rephrase that. When you base your relationship with God on your experiences, you have hundreds of ways to be wrong and only a handful of ways to possibly be right. When you base your relationship with God on a saved sinner met where you're at, accepting the substitute of Jesus Christ on the cross, and then you live out your life out of good old-fashioned gratitude with that changed life experience being something you hold on to, that's the authentic. And so I'm just going against the counterfeit that's potentially in that statement.
All right. Both you guys, good job. Well done.
Well, thank you.
It is way off. Chris gets
I
the
knew.
point. Yeah.
I knew it.
At what point? What happened? What changed when you're like, I think I'm really wrong?
Well, I knew from the beginning that I was wrong because I heard in my head already Chris's answer, but in my answer, and
Yeah.
you guys have to understand, when I first became a Christian, I picked up my Bible and I couldn't put it down, and I
Right.
did that for a few years, and
Yeah.
listened to a bunch of preaching, and our mutual friend Don Webster told me that he'd never seen anyone grow so fast, and which was nice. But the point was, it was God who was doing it, and he was doing it through his word. And so, my perspective was based on the word of God, and then my experiences with God since then. That's where I was coming from. So.
Yeah. All right. So, and it was good. What you had to say was absolutely good. However, here's the clincher for that statement, why it doesn't totally add up. And that is when you turn into the scriptures, there were lots of people when God himself showed up as Jesus and he walked among the people, he talked, he performed miracles. There were many people who heard what he said, saw what he did, and maybe even followed him for a while until they didn't. And they experienced him on a much more tangible level than we were even able to. And yet they did. They changed, they left, they fell away. Now that isn't to say once God has saved you, you are his. He is not going to change his mind. He's not going to fumble you and let you fall out of your salvation. But it does have to do with our experiences are just that. There are experiences. But our faith in Christ Jesus, when he has saved us, two totally different things. There were lots of people that definitely experienced Jesus, but they didn't follow him for a long time. Their
They
minds
were there for this.
Yeah.
They were there for the fish sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
There to feed their bellies.
Must have been a Friday.
Exactly. And
That's
and
right,
it did.
yes.
So, all right. So that statement is way off. So it is 2-1 right now,
Yeah.
Chris. You're
Yep.
doing pretty good.
Thanks.
Mike, here's your chance to tie the score. Statement number
Okay.
3. If I hate sin because of the punishment, I have not repented of sin. I merely regret that God is just. If I hate sin because of the punishment, I have not repented of sin. I merely regret that God is just. Is that right on or is that way off? Paddles up. Once again, Chris says way off. Mike says right on. Chris, we're starting with you.
I get tired of falling into your voodoo sucker trap. I got to be honest. I'm way off because I don't even know what you were talking about. Apparently,
I think you were going for a tie.
maybe. I think that, you're talking about the fact that, we have to have the right understanding of sin, or we're not really repenting of sin. Instead of realizing sin is bad, we only want our get out of hell free card. And so we're not really repenting from our sin. We're repenting because we know that we're probably going to face a judgment that we're not even sure is just or not. And therefore that creates a false conversion. If that's what you're saying, then I should have been right on, but I am not saying that. I did not hear it that way. I'm saying that if you realize your sin is going to be facing judgment, you might want to look for a way out of that. And by looking for a way out of that, you will find that Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life to come to the Father. No one comes to him but except through
You sure?
except through Jesus. And so I don't know. Way off.
Talking a little too much today. I know you've had a lot of
One
work
thing after another after
that
another
you've had
after
to
another.
do where you're talking and you're writing, and
Even over lunch,
all
we had a
your
meeting.
words
Even over
today.
lunch today, we had a meeting. So I've been talking with people nonstop
Yeah.
since about 7:00 this morning. So
You've been
So
talking
we'll
with
go-
your
Even had a
mouth
break.
full.
I know. I was
Yeah,
getting
right.
after it today. So anyway,
So 3 words. Shh.
shh.
Just go.
All right, Mike. Tell me why.
You're-
Tell me why you're right on.
Don't take over my show.
I did not.
Mike-
Did not take over your show.
Mike, you said that was right on. What are your thoughts?
Yes,
Well, to
Mike.
me,
What
the
are
way
your
it-
thoughts?
The way it sounded, all y'all, was that it's the difference between godly sorrow and worldly sorrow. And so, worldly sorrow, I've heard one definition, and this is not wrong, but it's you're sad because you got caught. Another definition of worldly sorrow that I believe is biblical is that you don't give your sorrow to God and you don't truly repent. And so you condemn yourself and you let the devil condemn yourself to the point where you're Judas and you hang yourself in a field. So to me, those are the two worldly sorrows. Godly sorrow is you're truly sorry and repentive because you got out of alignment with God, not because you're going to, be punished for it, although you might, but you may not suffer consequences. Sometimes God is gracious and doesn't make you go through consequences. Sometimes God will not be mocked and you will reap what you sow. But the reason why you have godly sorrow is because you're sorry that you got out of alignment with God, and that hurts your heart, and you want to be back in alignment with God because the Holy Spirit draws you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was right on.
All right. Well, that statement is indeed right on. That is from Charles Spurgeon, old Funky Chuck. So you can take that up with him in heaven, Chris.
The old English got me.
The old,
You can
the
put
old
that in the-
English.
you
It's
can-
the same English.
It's
You
old.
can take that to the bank and smoke it.
If I hate sin because of the punishment, I have not repented of sin. I merely regret that God is just. And yeah, we talk about it a lot, even in the issue of salvation, where it's like, if you're following Jesus, like one of you said, the whole get out of jail free card, because I don't want to go to hell. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but that's not where you want to stay.
Right.
Okay.
No,
So
right.
It's when
Justification comes with a pure heart seeking God by
Yes.
faith through the redemptive blood of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And that does not look uniform for every single person. But after the justification, the sanctification process has to be real.
Right. So if you go on just wanting to escape punishment or upset because you got caught, so to speak, that isn't repentance at all. And I think that sometimes, there's a lot of our sins that nobody really knows about. I mean, people might kind of feel effects of it, but they don't necessarily, maybe I have a sin of materialism. And so I'm very jealous of somebody who gets something and I'll tell them to their face, "Oh, I'm so happy for you." And then I'm not. You know what I mean? God knows those too.
Mhm.
And those sins that we have like that, sometimes God will work them out in a way where there's no heavy consequences to pay. But eventually you'll get to the point where when you get those twinges of jealousy, you just hate it. You just hate those twinges of jealousy and you give them back to God and you find, no, 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 no. I really need to be joyful for that person and happy for that person. And because your will has been set to not sin against God, you eventually find, oh, I am genuinely happy for that person.
And even if you can't get to the point where you're actually genuinely happy for that person,
Mhm.
as long as you don't self-deflate because of that person and you start doing woe is me that I didn't get this, woe is me that I didn't get that.
Right.
As long as you keep from that, you're progressing.
Yeah.
If you can keep from that and still not necessarily be joyful for the person, you're still moving forward.
Mhm.
Because when you have that, I'm so happy for your attitude, what usually generates is somebody who then is, well, God, how come I didn't get this? And how come I don't have that? And how come this didn't happen for me? What did I do? I'm trying to serve you. And, it's just like Elijah, there's no one like me that's serving you, Lord. And you remember that?
Yeah.
And he said, look,
Like that sometimes.
I got 7,000 just like you know nothing about,
For anyone out there that's not nuts.
Instead
Oh,
of
yeah, there's a
Uber,
whole bunch of you. Yeah.
instead of Uber Eats, it was Raven Eats. But
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He got Raven Eats. That's good.
special delivery.
Special
delivery. All right. Very good. So that means that you two are tied.
Mhm.
So
Yay.
I'm going to hang on to this little guy for another week.
Yeah, you can.
I'm not going to share him.
Okay.
Because it's really, really important to you.
Yes.
It's really, I care a lot. And so, yeah, I like.
Are you gonna
I
Are you
like our
gonna
goat.
Is Zach gonna make a second one and send it to Texas?
We're
and
going to
then
have to
We
do
might wanna
something,
do
aren't we?
something, I think.
Yeah.
If I ever win again, I can hold it up.
Yeah.
And
I
then
know,
if you win, you
right?
can hold it up.
Yeah.
We'll see if there's
If I
any
ever
filament
win.
left.
We'll make you like keep it in the lower part of your screen for the rest of the show.
Right.
Yeah,
It can never
right.
go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Well, so when I was still there, I went on a win streak. I
Yes.
won like 5 out of 7, or I was doing really
Yep.
well for
Yeah.
a while.
Yep.
And since I've moved here, I don't think I've won yet. I think it's like
I think you
soccer.
won.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
we've tied a couple times, and I think you did win once.
Did win one. I
think-
remember.
I think so.
Yeah, I remember passing
so like
the goat.
1-6-2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
6-2
maybe.
in
Home,
the
home
soccer
court
standings.
advantage. Yeah, home field advantage.
I guess you have to move back.
Yeah.
That's the only
Okay.
answer.
Well, you
How
are
about if I
coming.
come visit in August?
You're coming
Okay.
in August, and we'll have to definitely film one here, and then we'll put the pressure on to see if you can pull it off while you're in studio again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No
so
pressure.
that'll be fun.
We'll
That'll be
recreate the magic.
fun. Yep.
That'll be a fun day. That'll be a fun day because I know a lot of people do really miss having you around, Mike. So I'm glad that they have this show that they can stay connected with you. They do in other ways as well. But before we go, because I think this is going to do it for the show, final thoughts, Mike, before we say goodbye. What do you want to say?
Well, it's so I've been hearing from people too. They message me and say, "Hey, I saw you on the show, and we miss you so much." And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like I miss you guys so much too. And at the same time, I love it here and with my family.
Mhm.
And it's like I wish I could be two people,
Yeah.
but I can't. It's just that's not how life works. So.
Yeah.
I miss everyone every much as they miss me or more.
Yeah.
And I am so looking forward to our visit in August. It's going to be great. And, we'll keep
Yeah.
moving forward. But, we have technology now. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
can't give you guys a hug, but at least, we get to hang out.
Yeah.
Face to
Well,
face and hear your voice. That's
there
what I
are a
think.
lot of people that have these annual things. I know guys that they've since high school, they've been going to an annual fishing trip up north, and they're all in their 60s now. And they do it every year. They take a week at the end of May every year. And I still see their Facebook posts and stuff. And, there's other people that have like a timeshare or something where they go to the same spot every year for a week or two. You now have that in Iowa where you can just plan every year you're coming back for, a week because this is your forever family. A lot of them live here. Plus, for those of you who don't know, Mike still voices and puts together the little video announcements for our church. So our church is hearing your voice every Sunday, even from Texas. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
My
I wonder
apologies.
I wonder if in heaven will we be able to just be with whoever we want to be with it at a given moment? Or will we
That's a good
have
question.
like, no.
I just go back to what the Apostle Paul said.
Yeah.
And I believe he had probably a pretty good imagination.
I think he might.
He said that we, and him too, with what he saw when he got taken up to the third heaven, we can't imagine half of what God has prepared for us. And the other thing I take from the scriptures is that the presence of God and the presence of Jesus is going to be so immense that we're not going to want to do anything else.
We won't even
but be there and serve him, and there will be things that we'll want that he'll have us do or whatever. Because I think that this idea of sitting on a cloud playing a harp is just a complete anomaly of we're going to be doing things. We're going to be actively doing things because
isn't New Jerusalem going to come down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to have an economy and we're all going to have to punch in and stuff like that. It's going to be just a joyful serving of the Lord, and that includes work that we're just jacked we get to do
We won't
in the
even
presence
notice.
of the Lord.
We won't even notice that Mike's gone.
Yeah, so there'll be no marriage, there'll be no giving in marriage. I mean, it's all going to be the being with the King of Kings and with God Himself. And so we can't really imagine half of what God's got prepared.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible I might be able to have you and anyone who watches the show over for some perfect spaghetti sauce. Like the best batch I've ever made.
I know.
I'm thinking that might happen.
That might happen.
Love that. I would love that. Mike's spaghetti sauce will be in heaven.
Are you sending a jar up for our auction?
I don't know. Let me think about that.
Yeah, I just
You
thought
have to
about
do
it.
dry ice and everything.
Yeah, you would. That's right, because
Yeah,
you can't. Yeah, no, that'd be probably insane.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think we have had plenty of final. Oh no, I didn't have your final thoughts.
My
did I,
final
Chris?
thoughts
you
are
were talking, but it wasn't.
Just
your
keep
final
praying for
thoughts.
Fresh Road Media.
There you go.
I'm later this afternoon going to be talking to somebody about maybe doing a, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, a new segment called Bible Sidekick that will be on its own. It'll be its own YouTube channel, and we're just talking about what it's going to take to do that. And again, if you would like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. Wherever you're getting the content, and particularly at freshroadmedia.com, you can like and subscribe for free. And we don't know why that plays twice, but it does, and we're okay with that.
It stopped playing
twice as
twice
nice.
for a second.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so go to freshroadmedia.com right now, give a gift of any amount, and in the comments to us, let us know you want the book Bible Sidekick, and we will hook you up.
All right. And don't forget the virtues we talked about today, and this is not exhaustive at all. Honesty, humility, dependability, courage, determination, and my favorite, humor. If you're lacking in any of those things, as probably all of us somewhere have been, we can take it to the Lord in prayer, and we'll meet you back here next week on No Apology with Emily and Chris.